Good day, everyone. So I have been studying more on Johnny Depp's natal chart and his current transit since the jury is now in deliberation. And I've mentioned his chart a couple of times here, but I found out even some more information. So I'm going to put his chart here on the screen. You can see his transits that he has happening, right? And also, I pulled up the asteroid Amber because I wanted to know, well, where does Amber fall in Johnny Depp's chart? And in his natal chart, look where Amber falls for him, in the 8th house, the Scorpio house. And it's a 5-degree conjunction to his Chiron. Chiron is all about wounding. And when we heal our wounds, we will heal the wounds of others. And so Amber falls in that 8th house of Pisces, of wounding, of Scorpio energy. It's an intense, it's a jealous, it's obsessive, it's not an easy energy. Now, we already know that the relationship isn't easy. I know that. It's played out all over the courts. We already know that. But I want you to know even more that when you pull up the asteroid Amber, look where she falls for him, not in a really harmonious placement. And so I had to deep dive a little bit because that's what the 8th house is about, is deep diving. And I dove pretty deep this time to find her falling in his 8th. So anyway, just not good synastry between the two of them at all. And then I wanted to look at the transits because the jury's in deliberation now. He's got great lucky transits in his 9th house. Jupiter is transiting the 9th house, which is one of the houses that we look at when it comes to the court system, when it comes to the law. And Jupiter, he's going to have a Jupiter return here soon. But I like that placement. I think it's very favorable and bodes well for him to have a positive outcome of some level from this case. Now, it could also mean that his case inspires the world, or his takeaway from this case has inspired him in a new way. My point being is that the 9th house is one of the luckiest houses. It's ruled by Jupiter, and he's got Jupiter there natally. Super luck in his chart, but now he's going to have a return of Jupiter in that house. I don't necessarily like Chiron there in the 9th. That says wounding. It could mean healing. Maybe it'll be the healing happens. I don't know. I do also like the transit of Venus, which is in Taurus right now. And that is in his 10th house of fame and reputation and career. That bodes well for a favorable outcome. What I don't necessarily like, and the planet that's really hard to predict, is Uranus. Uranus is like, hey, we're going left, we're going right, it's up and down, it's a roller coaster, we're going to go upside down. You can't predict Uranus. So he's got Uranus in that house of reputation there, as well as Venus. He's got the North Node there. So there's a lot of good stuff, good transits that he is having around luck and the law and his reputation. But there is that unpredictability factor there with the Uranus there as well. So I don't know exactly what that's going to mean. It will be interesting to see what the final outcome is around this. But overall, I believe, regardless of how the jury decides this case for him, the astrology says to me something positive will come out of it for Johnny Depp. And I'm going to stick to that because that's just what I'm seeing in the chart. Now, granted, he is having a second Saturn return, and that can be a real bear. But it could also be the truth comes out. I don't know yet. But anyway, just wanted to talk about that, his natal chart with Amber falling in the 8th, and then some of the transits. So now I'm going to move on to the questions that came in, okay? So Lily asked about, can you predict death in an astrology chart? So this is the answer I have for that. There are astrologers who do that, but I'm not one of them, because my astrology teacher basically had told me that it's really not good to kind of be predicting that from an ethics perspective. It's not that I don't find that part of astrology interesting, and I asked her that same question, my own teacher, but I kind of don't go there because it's really an ethical thing for me. It's a great question. I'm just not the right person to answer that question. And there are people who do look at that and can probably predict it, but it's not my area of expertise, and I just don't want to kind of cross that line. The other question Lily had is, can you predict where you're going to move? I believe you can't predict where a person's going to move, but you can predict if they're having transits that might make them want to move. So let's say you're having a Saturn transit to your fourth house of home or the IC area. You could find that the Saturn is kind of squeezing you out of where you're living and you want to move somewhere else. But astrology does not predict, like, for example, let's say you live in Los Angeles. It's not going to predict that you're going to go to New York, so to speak. Now, you can find out if you decide to move to New York what planetary lines you're on and how your chart will change. But it does not predict your location specifically. And but that's another great question. I wish it did. Thank you, Lily, for those questions. Now, someone else asked about Psyche, Psyche, the asteroid Psyche. And you had this placement conjuncting your Pluto in Scorpio in your 8th house. And you asked how this might play out or what that means. So first of all, Psyche is an asteroid that falls at 9 degrees of Scorpio. So anybody here with 9 degrees of Scorpio in your chart, in a planet, in, a fixed star, or if you are working with 9 degrees of Scorpio, Scorpio rising, Scorpio descendant, any of your planets in Scorpio at 9 degrees, you have Psyche conjuncting those Scorpio planets. In her case, it falls in the 8th house. So knowing that Psyche falls in Scorpio, that tells you a lot about Psyche, right? It's going to be intense. It's going to be transformational. It's going to maybe be introspective. It's going to be really interested maybe in therapy and understanding why people do what they do, and maybe going into the darker side. When you have Scorpio energy in your 8th house, you've got a double whammy of Scorpio, because that's Scorpio's house. Scorpio rules the 8th house. Any planetary bodies, asteroids, fixed stars that you have in your 8th house are going to have the flavor of Scorpio. So we know you have Pluto and Psyche in there in Scorpio. So you've got this intensity, you've got this transformational, this exploratory energy where you probably will want to explore the darker side of life, the deep diving, the understanding of the human psychic, so to speak. So if you are, for example, interested in being a psychotherapist or a therapist of some sort, or someone who works in that capacity, then this is a great placement for you, and that could play out for you. So look for that. Ask yourself, are you the type of person who really likes to do that kind of exploring into the Pluto side, the Scorpio side of things, the 8th house side of things? Because that will be your answer, okay? So I hope that helps for those of you who wanted to know about the asteroid Psyche being in the 8th house, conjuncting your Pluto, all in Scorpio. Okay. The other question was, what does Pluto in the 1st house mean? So Pluto in the 1st house means you have Pluto on top of you at all times. The 1st house is you, yourself, your body, your personality. Pluto is there with you. How do you want to work with Pluto? Are you interested in transforming yourself? Do people view you as someone powerful? Do people view you as someone who has transformed your life in some way? Transformation can mean many things to many different people. What is your transformation story? What is your Pluto story? Is a position of power important to you? Do people look at you and feel intimidated by you? Are you a boss? Are you a manager? How do you handle power? That's the question. Pluto is the lord of the underworld. He is in your 1st house. You have to proceed very carefully. If I had Pluto in the 1st, I'd have to proceed very carefully and make sure I'm not letting Pluto run the show, because Pluto can be jealous. Pluto can be obsessive. Pluto can be like, hey, we're going to do this and nobody gets to have a say. We're going to go in and we're going to destroy this. We're going to take this out and no more extra time is going to be given. Pluto doesn't mess around. We're talking about the Lord of the underworld here in your 1st house. The people that I know that have this placement with Pluto in the 1st or Pluto conjunct their rising sign are very powerful people. They've always been in a position of power, and they've earned that right, because being in a position of power tends to be you make more money, not always, but you make more money and you earn that position of power, because only someone with Pluto in the 1st or on the rising sign can give bad news. Like, I'm sorry, we have to lay you off today. Or I'm sorry, we're going to be garnishing your wages. Or I'm sorry, we've got to let you go. Pluto gives these kinds of messages. So that's my kind of take on Pluto in the 1st house. It will be with you your entire lifetime. And so you don't have to answer today, but let it percolate and then regroup with your chart. I'm the type of person, I'm always learning about my chart. It doesn't matter how old I am. I constantly am learning something. And when you have Pluto, it's going to be like there, kind of like constantly, you might find yourself constantly processing stuff. You know, it's just that energy. It's your chart. Only you know what's best for you. Okay? So I hope I answered the question, Lily, that you had, the question about, that another person had about Psyche in the 8th house with Pluto. The other question that came in, this one, Pluto in the 1st. And then the last question that came in was, what has astrology taught me? What is the benefit of astrology? And so my answer can be very lengthy, but I'm not going to make it lengthy. But astrology teaches us many things. One of the greatest gifts that my chart has taught me is self-awareness and introspection. I think they both go together. Introspection, self-awareness. I can admit my part in any scenario, be it good, be it bad, be it ugly. I can apologize. Not many people on the planet can even apologize, folks, when they're wrong, right? We have a lot of people that will never really admit when they're wrong. They don't own their behavior, even though their behavior is very, maybe not attractive. But the one great gift that astrology has taught me is introspection and self-awareness. And that is something that I value and hold in high regard, because learning self-awareness, learning introspection is an invaluable tool, and we were not taught it in school. We're not taught this. We kind of have to figure it out along the way, but if you listen to motivational speakers like Tony Robbins or Oprah Winfrey or so many of the biggies, they will all tell you the greatest gift a human can learn is self-awareness, is introspection. Because you're never going to be successful, in my opinion, at leading or inspiring if you can't look at how you're behaving. You know, this Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, a lot of people are talking about it, right? And a lot of people are talking about the fact that she could never admit her faults. She totally lacks self-awareness. She totally lacks introspection. Listen to it. It's all out there on many of the YouTube channels. A lot of these lawyer channels that are reviewing the case, they will constantly say she lacks introspection. And it has hurt her, in my opinion. Okay? Now listen, I wish both Johnny and Amber all the best. But I have to tell you, when you lack introspection and you don't even want to admit you lack it, good luck. Go see how far that takes you. I find it so much more attractive when people like Johnny Depp goes, yeah, I like to do drugs. I like to drink. I admit it. At least he admits it. She doesn't even admit anything. So one of the greatest gifts my chart has taught me is introspection and self-awareness, which is an invaluable tool. And I take that everywhere I go. Okay, that's it. I'm going to close this out. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.